'Cause The View is live. Presidential race relations. Could Mayor Pete Buttigieg's surge in the polls get derailed by a botched outreach to black voters? And is Mike Bloomberg's apology for supporting police stop and frisk policies too little too late? Plus, the Crown star Helena Bonham Carter hits the table. She's talking about using some Harry Potter magic on her kids and preparing for the crown by contacting the spirit of the late Princess Margaret. And View Your Deals unwrapping some of Oprah's favorite things for the holidays.
Trust me, you're going to want to view your deal.
Let's light up Hot Topics with Whoopi, Abby Huntsman, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, and Meghan McCain. Now, let's get things started.
Day off. We'll see her in a couple of days. And now there's been a big shakeup apparently in the Democratic playing field according to the latest Iowa poll. They're saying Mayor Pete has surged 16 percentage points, making him the #1 candidate at this moment. Now, as we know, this is going to keep, people are up, then they're down, then they're sideways, then they're in, then they're out, then everybody's mad. But what do you think Mayor Pete's done that has him pulling ahead right now all of a sudden?
Well, he's a moderate, am I right? He's more of a moderate Democrat.
He wasn't, and now he is. Like, he was campaigning extremely left, sort of in the Beto lane. I think saw the tea leaves on that, and now has run extremely moderate.
Okay, well, so people like that. The only other one there's Klobuchar is like that, and so is Joe Biden. People are excited about Buttigieg. He's fresh, he's new, he's gay. He's a serviceman. He served in Afghanistan. He's married in a very, unless you are a homophobe, he's married in a very traditional marriage. A totally monogamous, and that should appeal to,
he speaks to his faith a lot.
The silent majority out there, whoever they are. And I think it's great. And then also he's openly religious. Which is also another positive in this country. So unless people are going to not vote for someone like him because he's gay, I think he's got a shot.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to try to burst the bubble here, but there's always a sparkly, shiny object in primary politics. I can remember when, like, Herman Cain was polling really high. Newt Gingrich at one point, I think he won South Carolina during primary politics. So he did. I'm just saying. So there's always there's always a bright, shiny candidate. Howard Dean, and then infamously yelled whatever. My problem with Mayor Pete right now, for a few different reasons, is I don't know if we'd be talking about a candidate who was polling at 0 or 1% with white voters, the way we are talking about a candidate who is polling with 1% with black voters. He has a serious problem and blind spots with the African-American community. He came out with his Douglas plan over the weekend, and some black leaders that were on the menu never actually supported the plan. Others weren't black at all, and a stock photo used featured a Kenyan woman and her child right here. This is very sloppy, and it's very disrespectful. So again, he may be doing very well in Iowa. It doesn't really matter until you get to New Hampshire and South Carolina.
What was wrong with that picture exactly?
Those aren't real people that
they're real people, but they're not American. They're here.
They're real people. They're not
African American. They're African.
It's a stock photo, so I understand that.
I've
the
said
image
this
was
a lot.
it was done by a low-level staffer.
I've said
not
this
him.
often about Pete, Mayor Pete. I like him. I like some of the things that he has to say, but he has had a problem historically in South Bend, where he is the mayor, with the African American community. I went to law school in South Bend, have gone back there several times, spent a lot of time in that community. He is not embraced by the black community. He's had as much as he should, because he is somewhat popular there.
But is that an open and shut case?
Well, you know, I think if you're
pretty
polling
bad.
at 1% at this point,
It's much lower than Trump.
anywhere,
for whatever that's worth.
It's
That's
problematic. And I asked him some questions when he was on our show via satellite about the gentrification issue that was going on in South Bend. I don't think he had a great answer for it, and he didn't really have a great answer for reparations. When I asked him, he didn't have a lot great answers for a lot of the issues that face the African American community. And with this rollout of the Douglas Plan, which was supposed to be addressing the African American community, he rolled it out in a very sloppy way.
But he didn't do it. A low-level staffer did it.
But your staff is.
I get that.
They're proxies.
How can
of
you say that people are endorsing you and they're not?
The one thing I will say that's positive about this for me is that Governor John Bel Edwards just won re-election in Louisiana, and he's a pro-gun, anti-abortion Democrat. So the idea that there's not a lane for moderate Democrats is shown, I mean, at least in this election, that's not true, that there is a lane for moderate Democrats across the country.
And there are a
he's
lot of-
showing that.
Yeah.
Do I think Mayor Pete is going to be the Democratic nominee? Absolutely
But
not.
didn't this guy in Louisiana...
Because you can't
the
become president with no black support
All right, but
across the country. It's
but the-
ridiculous.
I know that. That's right. That's why Biden is ahead.
Yes.
But this other guy in Louisiana, the Republican, he hooked his star on Trump, and that's why he
Exactly.
lost.
And that's very
That's a really
interesting.
more important point. Is when you hook up with the devil, they're not going to vote for you.
The Midas touch doesn't work anymore with Trump.
But a pro-gun, anti-abortion Democrat just got reelected in Louisiana.
Yeah.
So I do think it's interesting. I think he's campaigning very well in Iowa. But again, Iowa is a different place for Republicans than it is for Democrats running. It always has been, as you have made the point several times.
Especially because of the lower
That being
African American
said,
population there. I think
that
it's
being
at
said, you
3.4%.
It's not a king-making state in the way that it once was.
No,
and
it isn't, but let us not discount anyone.
I'm not, but
No, I'm just saying it just as a general thing, because I think sometimes people hear things the way they want to hear them, and we're not discounting anyone. We're just making you aware that this is what's happening in the broader picture.
I love Iowa, but I also think that the caucus, I have always had a problem with the caucus in general, because I don't think the caucus is the same as a primary. And I do believe that once you get the momentum rolling in New Hampshire, historically, it always makes a difference. And again, there are many candidates that have won Iowa handily and never come close to the presidency. Rick Santorum.
I have a legal note.
Yes, you do.
Okay, Buttigieg's campaign confirmed to the Washington Post that the photo of the Kenyan woman was no longer on the website, noting that it had been taken down in September during an update to the page. A contracting firm had chosen the stock image while building the site without knowing that it was taken in Africa, according to the campaign. You know, one thing that you just mentioned about the lane for moderates, I thought it was very interesting that President Obama came out this weekend and said, or was it, I think it was Friday.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Friday. And basically said, listen, you know, if you go too far to the left, if you're a Democrat, you are going to alienate those folks that are in the middle. And you've got to think about that
Elizabeth
if you're
Warren
running.
has moved slightly to the right in her health care plan, by the way, just FYI. She's not as much to the left anymore because the message is loud and clear to Democrats.
I think the cast has already died. I always say that wrong, Whoopi. The cast has died. The cast has
already
died. Is that right?
Died.
Die is
Sorry,
already
died.
cast.
Die is
cast. I always mess that metaphor up. I'm so sorry.
The die is
What's
cast.
done is
There's
done.
something, yes,
Elizabeth Warren.
there's something to be said, and I'm going to say it because I don't think we hit on this, and then I'll go to break. If you can't, and the people around you don't take enough time to look and see what is being put out when you're trying to reach out to black folks, if your people can't take the time to recognize and find out if this image that you are utilizing has anything to do with what you're putting out, you have much more, your problems are bigger than you think. This should never, you know, if you're talking to the black community, find some actual, real American black folks who you can respond. I mean, it doesn't, there's a lot of pictures of us. Just saying.
Right.
You have to be more thoughtful. You got to pay better attention. You want this gig, you better pull your stuff up and do it right and stop trying to, not saying that you're the only one that's a bit sloppy, but that was sloppy unnecessarily. We'll be right back.
Later, Trump to testify? The president just tweeted that he's strongly considering testifying to Congress. How will this change the course of the impeachment hearings? What today on The View?
My favorite things.
Incredible deals on Oprah's favorite things.
Amazing. You're going to want to view your deal.
Today on The View. Later, the Crown star Helena Bonham Carter.
I don't have to tell you, it's my favorite time of the year.
And a holiday Oprah edition of View Your Deal.
Welcome back. Apparently, another candidate trying to mend fences with minority voters is Michael Bloomberg, who says now that he realizes that the stop and frisk policy he supported as New York mayor disproportionately impacted the Black and Latino community. Take a look.
I didn't understand that back then, the full impact that stops were having on the Black and Latino communities. I now see that we could and should have acted sooner and acted faster to cut the stops. I wish we had. I'm sorry that we didn't.
So, well, come on.
This is not a Bloomberg room.
I feel like a lot of folks are not feeling him on this.
Well, it's just such a problem because in 2013, there was a 195-page decision by Judge Scheindlin in federal court that said this was a huge problem. In 2011, almost 700,000 stop and frisk stops were done on Black and Latino
Well,
men.
the three
Think about
terms.
what stop and frisk means. It means somebody stops you in the street and touches
explain it.
you. And touches you just by looking at you, thinking that you have a gun or you have
called
drugs.
racial profiling.
It's racial profiling. And just recent, and then when
Wasn't it ineffective as
it was
well?
very ineffective. When de Blasio took over, I know there aren't a lot of de Blasio fans, but that was in 2014, only 10,000 stops. Only 10,000 stops compared to 700,000.
Well, it's
and
more
guess
than that.
what?
It's
Well,
over 3 terms. The police recorded
Yes.
over 5 million stops.
over 5 million. I'm just talking about in 1 year was 700,000.
Yeah.
And then when de Blasio took over, crime went down when the stops went down. And just recently in January, Bloomberg was defending stop and frisk. So where did the epiphany come from?
Yeah. Can we also show something that's a problem for him? I mean, you're right, but
You know?
we have to show this clip, and I'm not always for clips, but you have to watch this.
It's just not going to happen on a national level for somebody like me starting where I am, unless I was willing to change all my views and go on what CNN called an apology tour. Joe Biden went out and apologized for being male, over 50, white. He apologized for the one piece of legislation, which is actually a pretty good anti-crime bill.
So
That was
don't
March.
come for Biden on him apologizing for things if you're going to be, in my opinion, disrespectful to what I found to be genuine apologies from a candidate who's trying to moderate in a different time than, because he has been serving for over 30 years, and then come out a few months later apologizing for one of your most well-known policies.
And he said during that segment, that clip, that the anti-crime bill that Joe Biden was a part of was pretty effective. Again, another anti-crime bill that led to the mass incarceration of Black and brown people.
But the question
So he
is,
still doesn't get it.
But having said all that, Sonny, let's say he changes it all around and plans to really correct it. Can he be forgiven?
I don't think so, because it doesn't appear to be truthful. It doesn't. I mean, it seems very disingenuous to me. It's
The timing.
intellectually dishonest.
Yeah.
In January, you're saying, yes, I still believe this, and now you're running for the presidency, and all of a sudden, a couple months later, you don't believe it.
That is a
Where did the
problem.
epiphany come from?
Exactly.
Come on.
The epiphany comes from he wants to win.
Yes. Yes.
Listen, you know what? The great thing about politics is nobody is always happy with what goes
That's
down.
true.
Yeah.
But the thing that you have to know is that if you have had a stance for a very long time, you can't just kind of come out and go, oh, where am I? Oh, yes.
No, you cannot.
I know. Oh, no. It's all different now. And because people they're looking to see if you say, you know what? I made a gigantic mistake before people bring it up.
Yeah.
Before people call you out on it, because they've called you out on this, Michael. They've called you out on this. And I think you're going to have a harder time now because people are going to be suspect. And I think you have to either just say what you're going to do, like everybody else, and take your licks and then convince us that you're the person to take the job. You can't turn on other people. You can't do what other people have done. You don't have a lot of time to make up. Okay, you got to get your stuff out here much faster. And speaking of getting things
do you
done,
want to do this in the next segment because we have no time? Or
no, we made the time for you.
Okay, all right. Well, it says we'll be right back on
I know, but they're lying.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm really
It's
bad.
good.
Still, it's bad at
Go
the time.
ahead,
That's why I'm not the moderator, Whoopi. Okay, so I was in London. Thank you for letting me off ABC, even though we ended up not being on air for the impeachment. Anyway, I was at the Magnitsky Human Rights Awards in London, and Sergei Magnitsky was someone who found corruption in Russia, was subsequently tortured and killed because of it. And there is now an act that is in the United States, and we're trying to make it expand globally, where basically Russia can't use the West and democracy for their dirty money, that they can't launder it in countries that love and utilize democracy and freedom every single day. I gave an award to a man named Oleg Sentsov, who's a Ukrainian filmmaker who was imprisoned by Putin simply for coming out against him during the annexing of Crimea. He is an incredible freedom fighter. It's an honor to be there. Last final thing, I also saw Jamal Khashoggi's widow speak, and it was one of the most heart-wrenching, horrific speeches I've ever heard. I don't understand why we're not talking about Jamal Khashoggi and our relationship with Saudi Arabia and the West's relationship with Saudi Arabia on a broader scale. And one last final thing, I know I'm on a little bit of a tangent, but it's just an incredible experience to be a part of. Sergei Magnitsky and the Magnitsky Act was one of the things that Trump Jr. was talked about in the infamous Trump Tower meeting. And Bill Browder, the man who starts it and runs it, was also one of the people. I believe there are people in the Trump administration that are trying to use the West as a slush fund for Vladimir Putin and Russia, and we cannot let it happen. Thank you for letting me say that. Thank you. Do not let anyone gaslight you that this is going to be okay. Do not let the Trump family or anyone.
It's not all about adoption?
No, it was about adoption, Sonny.
We'll be back.
Thank you.
Welcome back. I mean, there's much to talk about, but Sonny, you first, baby.
Okay. Well, on tomorrow night's episode of my show, Truth About Murder, I follow the search for Lisa Fine, who disappeared from her rural Michigan home where she was attacked in front of her 11-year-old son. He gave an eyewitness account of who attacked and kidnapped her, but crime DNA took police in a completely different direction. Please don't miss it. It's tomorrow night on Investigation Discovery, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Very good. We will watch.
Yeah. It's an important story.
Now, I don't know what's happening with folks that were just flipping out. There was no coffee, apparently.
For our audience.
And I don't know what that means,
they have to fix that. The Starbucks was closed at the Starbucks that our audience goes to in the morning, and I would be very unhappy if I were
not
to show
cool.
It's wrong. See, I don't drink coffee, but I could. People, let me show you what people's faces look like.
Yeah.
They were like, and I didn't know.
They're very revved up for people who are not
because they're so freaked out by having no caffeine. They feel like, we have to keep breathing, so we're here. Now, you know.
They'll fix that. I mean,
they'll fix it.
We can't be having that.
No. But I don't know if this can be fixed. Yes, they will. They will. Or we'll continue to bring it up. Anywho, you know, every birthday I look forward to a delicious tray of Joy's lasagna, which she posted. You know, she posted the recipe for it last week. Check it out.
This is so easy to do. Any idiot could do this. I don't know why they make such a big fuss over it. It's just lasagna. I'm going to take these little, delightful little sausages and just sort of scatter them around so that when you take a bite of the lasagna, you will be pleasantly surprised to find a sausage in your mouth. Isn't that something? Voila. Into the oven it goes. But I'm not going to put it in the oven. I'm going to freeze it. And then I'm going to give it to Whoopi on her birthday.
Yes. Right, which I did.
Which she did. So I took my frozen lasagna home, and then things went downhill very quickly. Very quickly, because, you know, the whole house is addicted to Joy's lasagna, and because we only get it on my birthday, you know, everybody was like, because the whole family was in for because last week was my birthday. So my daughter kind of looks and she puts her hands on. I say, it's frozen. It's not ready. It's frozen. You can't do anything with it. Because I know what's going to happen. They're going to want some. I was a fool, y'all. I should have put it in the downstairs refrigerator where nobody goes.
That's right.
But I didn't. And so the conversation began. What are you going to do right now? I'll tell you when we come back. We're back. So basically, the lasagna thing happened, and I was on the phone. Things happened. Lasagna went in to the oven. I came back off the phone.
Frozen.
It was. I thought it was. I lied. I said it was frozen, so they'd leave it alone.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It did not work. But I had to keep answering the phone, so I discover that maybe they set it up that way, so that I had to answer the phone and talk to people for a little while, so they could eat. So, because when I came down, all the lasagna was gone.
Gone.
Yes,
it's shocking.
A woman just goes, no.
Yes.
They didn't even leave you one little tiny
Those
piece.
ate everything, like little locusts. It was like.
Tell me what your granddaughter said to you. She said, I ate it in your honor.
Because it was her birthday. My granddaughter and I share a birthday. And so she said, I ate it in your honor. That didn't help me.
No.
Because she wasn't like a baby bird where I could get the lasagna out of her mouth. But it was insane. It was insane. They ate everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was in Atlantic City on Friday for the show.
Right, Brian, you went to see your show, right? Yeah.
Oh, good.
Really great.
And they discovered, we had several of the producers with us. And
Damn it. I really wanted to go to that.
They discovered
I love Atlanta.
that because people would get up, because I do a Q&A, and people got up and talked about how they are attached to the show, and that they trust us to give them the information as we understand it, because people felt that they could watch a lot of the news shows, and people talk at you on the news, but we talk to each other, and there was not a bad mention of any of us. People were like,
really?
Listen, I always expect to hear from somebody, but here's what the lady said. She got up and she said she appreciated because whatever's going on, they can see us in each other's eyes. They know that we get annoyed, but they know there's no malice.
No.
Oh, that's
There's
great.
no malice. And it made me feel good because, you know, people always say, oh, you guys must hate each other. It's like, you know, we don't have time. We don't have time to hate each other. We don't have time to hate each other. And we're at this table every day. We're at the table every day. We are not perfect. We do get into disputes. That is the job. That's what we're supposed to do.
You know what's interesting?
And again, would you ask someone with a penis this question if they fight all the time? There's only something that is asked to female hosts on this specific show.
Right.
I was just going to say that, you know, ever since Trump took office, people he's perpetrated lies so much. Nobody knows what's a lie and what's the truth. At least on this show, you know that we're not lying.
That's true.
We'll be right back.
Next, Helena Bonham Carter reveals how she contacted the spirit of the late Princess Margaret for advice on playing her in The Crown, and how she answered back.
So I am a huge fan of The Crown. I might have mentioned it already. And this season is even better, maybe, or just as good as the last one. Well, even better, and we have Oscar-nominated actress Helena Bonham Carter here. She takes over for the role of Princess Margaret, whose sibling rival with her sister, the Queen, is alive and well. Take a look.
Yes, I am. No, you're not. Relationship more special than ever.
Without being caught?
Yeah.
That's what I thought, you crook. And all because Margaret was all the things I'd specifically begged her not to be. All the things I could never be. Instinctive, spontaneous, dazzling.
Welcome, Helena Bonham Carter. So, I love that scene. Princess Margaret, as played by you, she really read Lyndon Johnson. She reads him. She knew how crafty he was.
I read Trump that. Well, he had similarities with
her.
I mean, Trump, and I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
But
in the first two seasons,
she knows how to. Yeah, she does know how to read people. Yeah.
She read him, and she played his game with dirty jokes and what have you. It's perfect. So, but in the first two seasons of The Crown, the Princess and the Queen were played by two other actresses, Vanessa Kirby and Claire Foy, who happen to have won an Emmy for it. I'm sure you will too.
Not a given.
And now you and Olivia Colman have stepped into the roles. So I heard from a little bird that you actually met the real Princess Margaret.
Not for the part. Well, actually, in a kind of way,
She's been dead a while.
She has been dead a while, but I had my ways of getting through to her. But before I did meet her in real life once. Yeah, she was typically ambivalent in what she said to me. She said, like, I remember there's something like, oh, you are getting better at acting, aren't you?
A left-handed compliment.
She was good at complimenting and putting you down at the same time.
She was an unhappy girl.
I think she was at times unhappy, but then also there were times when she was perfectly happy. I think, if you're that famous, you can't be smiling all the time.
Yeah.
She was somebody who I think she had sadnesses and everything, but she also knew how to have fun.
Yeah, she did.
And she certainly, having now gotten to know her, she didn't have any self-pity. She didn't walk around going, I'm tragic, No. She was, she had a good time, and she was very clever, and she was very...
and pretty.
But it's hard to be that famous and be that... I think she was vulnerable, too.
Yeah.
And
I think
very
a little disappointed that she wasn't born first.
Well, there's the Crown, Margaret.
There's the Crown part.
It's a different. There's the Peter Morgan version,
right?
And then there's the real. I mean, I would hate to necessarily second guess what they really felt, but we got the joy of the fact we never know. We'll never know what they feel,
of course,
and so we can project onto them what we want. So sibling rivalry, for instance, is something that affects us all, I think. As soon as you get born, you're somewhat determined by your position in your family with your brothers and sisters. And so on the whole, people who I met, I went to lots of good friends of hers, and they said she didn't really mind about being number two. She minded about being short. That's what she really She was 5 foot, that was it.
Yeah.
She was tiny.
It's not so
Big
bad.
hair,
Very tiny. Well, that's what she did. Big hair, big crowns, everything. And she was so tiny that she what she loved to do was to raise the seat in our car. She had a real complex about it. So they could see her. And that's the thing, is if you can't see somebody, that's her job. Her job was to be seen.
Right.
So that's why she moved so slowly, so that if your job is to get from, if you're opening something, so you go from the car to the entrance, you go as slowly as possible so that so many people can see you.
Oh.
That's the thing about, can I put the thingy back? Yeah.
Well, we often talk here about the pressures that the real royals face, especially from the media. And the latest news is that Harry and Meghan are apparently not spending their Christmas this year with the Queen because they're going to spend it with Meghan's mom and alone also. Do you think there's really a rift in the family?
It doesn't matter. Well, just let them be.
Just let them be.
Who gives a...
Yeah, that's what we said. Yeah. Let them live their lives.
And it's also great for Doria, the mother. It's her time. It's a big deal. For every move to be analysed, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
To us, it shouldn't really.
Yeah.
What does it, that sort of thing is...
But the royals are under a lot of pressure from the media all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, it's tough.
In a way, Margaret was the first one to really... They broke sort of gentleman's agreement.
Yeah. Tabloid royal.
Fergie had her moments.
They've all had their moments since Margaret. Yeah. There's been...
Margaret was also a performer. She loved to sing and do all what we saw her doing, that she was...
She loved singing.
Yeah. She loved to
She liked to be the limelight.
Yes.
It was something... She was basically... if you broad stroke had to look at the two sisters. One was an introvert, who was the eldest, who ended up being the queen, and Margaret was born an extrovert.
Yes.
So, and she loved in private, you know, but she loved having a good sing-along. She was genuinely musical, and yeah, I get to sing, which is fun.
Yeah,
nice.
But I've also got the caveat that she also liked to drink, so
Yes.
she wasn't necessarily singing at her best. You know? 'Cause-
Yeah, she drank a lot. I love her. I'm so sorry. I am totally American. I didn't know about her until The Crown, and I love her. She's my favorite royal. So whatever
Well,
that's.
a lot of people love her.
I do,
And I love
yeah.
the fact that people love her, but when she was alive, a lot of people loved to dislike her.
Yeah.
So it's sort of so ironic that she was somebody who was, certainly by the press, and people, there was a whole book, when I took it on, there's a whole book by Craig Brown about how many people were so bitchy about her consistently. And so it's so nice that she's getting a lot of love now.
Yeah.
And she's a gift to play. I don't think she was necessarily easy to be inside, but she's definitely fun to play.
People like a little bit of irreverence.
They do.
And a rebel.
Yeah.
Which
certainly-
was Margaret.
Which
I
she
remember
was.
her because I'm so old. I remember her when she was alive.
She's a rebel, but what's fun
When she
about
was
her is
young.
that she contradicts herself. And I think a lot of these days, we're allowed to be one thing, but we're not allowed to be that and another thing. So she was a rebel, but she was also very loyal to her
Well,
sister.
all I know is that you're wonderful in the part. You're
Thank
funny
you.
and you're fun and you're real and everything else.
I'm real.
So thank you. Yeah. So thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Our thanks to Helena Bonham Carter. Season 3 of The Crown is streaming now on Netflix, and we'll be right back. I'm sorry that was...
So, what's on Oprah's gift list this year?
Trust me, you're going to want to view your deal.
We partnered with vendors for at least half off her holiday batch of favorite things next.
New Year deal has a holiday gift list that is Oprah approved because we partnered with vendors for at least half off her holiday batch of favorite things while supplies last. Creative director of O Magazine, Adam Glassman's back to unwrap them. So let's get shopping!
We have to get shopping right away because these are really hot items from our favorite things list. Let's start with this. This is from Softies. It's called the Marshmallow Hooded Lounger. It's called Marshmallow because it's super soft, super great. You wear it around your house. You come home after work, you put this on. On the weekends, you wear this. Wear it over leggings. You can do errands. They made 6 new colors just for us. When Oprah saw these, she said, yes.
Yes.
Everyone has to have
Yes,
these. Truly.
Oprah.
The price normally is $99, but today only it's going to be $49 plus free shipping. When the holiday comes, everyone's looking for a great scarf, and it's really hard to find a new scarf. And I'm so excited. From Echo, we found these faux fur scarves, color block. You know.